5 public hearings, so we have a fairly full agenda. For the public hearing agenda items, if you wish to make public comments, we have comment slips at the speaker stand next to Mr. Kobe there. And for future notification purposes, it is very important that you fill out a slip, drop it in the box when you come forward to speak. When you address the board, please state your full name, your address, and your zip code. We'll call each case on the agenda in order. Hear first from the applicant, then those speaking in favor. 10 minutes allotted for the principal spokesperson, 3 minutes for each additional speaker. We'll then hear from those wishing to speak against an application. And the same rules apply, 10 minutes for a principal spokesperson, 3 minutes for everyone else. One representative of the application can then speak in rebuttal if desired. After hearing comments on each case, the board will then immediately deliberate and vote on that case before moving on to the next item on the agenda. Please note, when the board is deliberating, members of the public are not permitted to comment. Any member of the public may request a copy of the board's decisions on a particular case by contacting the MPC office. The number is 673-6480, and that's after 1 p.m. tomorrow, after they've had a chance to compile these notes. Or you can access our website, shreveportcatompc.com. For consent agenda items and other agenda items that do not require a public hearing, public comments can be made upon request by filling out a comment slip. If comments are requested for a specific agenda item, the chairman will offer an opportunity for those comments prior to the commission taking action on the agenda item. That references consent items, and there are 2 on today's agenda. All of the MPC's zoning recommendations are submitted to the City Council for a final decision. Please note it is your responsibility to contact the appropriate governing body, and I think now that means City Council only,
That's City
correct?
Council, yes, sir.
So it's your responsibility to contact the council about their procedures as related to the matter that you may be concerned with. So in other words, we are a recommending body on many of our decisions, and the City Council has the final say. Copies of this document and the phone numbers to contact the governing bodies is available on the table next to the podium and in the entryway of this room. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. The Commission values your testimony and appreciates your compliance with these guidelines. Thank you very much. Now we're going to kick off the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. So if you care to join us, please stand. Ms. McCullough, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a prayer?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Jackson, how about a prayer?
Everybody please bow their heads. Our Father, we come to you asking you for little and thanking you for everything. Lord, watch over each and every one of us today here to Lord. Let this meeting to be what you would have it to be in your name's sake. Lord, we know that everybody has everything going on with them in some form or fashion, but touch their bodies, touch their souls, their minds, and let them speak like you, walk like you, and talk like you. In these blessings in your name, amen.
Amen.
For your information, we have a work session that begins at 1:30 prior to these meetings. It is held in the conference room on the 4th floor in the MPC suite of offices. And at that time, we go over these cases and we ask questions, but we don't deliberate. But any member of the public can participate in that process as well as this open process here. Right now, I'm looking for a motion from a member to approve the minutes of the January 4th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Andrews, second by Ms. Jackson. Any discussion on those minutes? Let's vote our machines. And I'm assuming the system is working better than last month, Mr. Clark.
Yeah, I think it is, Mr. Chair. It is.
Very good. We're off to a good start.
Absolutely.
Okay. Right now, we have 2 consent agenda items. Number 6 is case number 22-17-SC. It is a final plat, parentheses minor, and the applicant is Shreveport Real Estate, LLC. The location is 3141 Bert, Kouns Industrial Loop. The existing zoning is R112. And the request is for a final plat for a 3-lot subdivision. Proposed use is single-family residential. Is anyone here representing this case? Sir, can you step forward? Name and address, please.
Mike Ferlito, 9136 Mansfield Road, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71118.
Mr. Ferlito. So what's happening with Shane's?
Well, we were here earlier with the deal to put a mobile home on that piece of property. And so anyway, we were asked to subdivide it into 1-acre plots. So that's what this is for.
Manufactured home or mobile home?
Manufactured home.
That area is pretty solidly single-family residential. What do they call them, stick-built homes as
Yes, sir.
opposed to manufactured?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Has the introduction of the manufactured home caused any problems?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We didn't
Very
have
good.
any issues when we came here for the mobile home, for the manufactured home.
Very good. Did you bring anyone else with you in favor?
No, sir.
Is there anyone opposed to this application? Any cards submitted? Mr. Kobe?
Not for this case.
Okay, very good. I think at this point, it's time for the board to make a decision. So, Mr. Ferlito, anybody have any questions for Mr. Ferlito?
Just a follow-up statement, Mr. Chair, please.
I beg your pardon?
Just a follow-up statement. Another board granted the approval for the special exception use for a manufactured home at this location. The only thing that's before you is the subdivision of the property that was required in conjunction with their approval.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Clark. Okay. Given that there's no one else here besides you, Mr. Ferlito, and nobody in opposition, does a board member want to make a motion so we can offer some comments on this?
Motion in favor.
Mr. Sater's in favor?
I'll second it.
Mr. Elberson is in second. Any further comments from board members? Any questions? Okay, please vote your machines. Thank you, Mr. Ferlito.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all's help.
Next case is number 7 on the agenda, 22-18-SC. This is a final plat major. The applicant is Coyle Engineering. The owner is Lakeside RMA. The location is the west end of Newburn Lane. The existing zoning is R17. The request is final plat approval for a 54-lot subdivision. And I'm assuming you represent Coyle.
I am here representing Coyle Engineering and Lakeside RMA LLC. The owner, my name is Robert Aiello, 300 Benton Road, Bossier City, Louisiana. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
This is a single-family subdivision in the Long Lake community, is that correct?
It's in the Lakeside community, which is on Long Lake. It's Unit 7 of the subdivision. So we've been there for about 20 years, continuing to build.
Very good. So in other words, Coyle is the primary developer of this subdivision?
Coyle is the engineering firm, Lakeside RMA LLC is the owner, and I'm the owner of Lakeside RMA LLC.
Well, there's two lakesides on the agenda today. One is in South Shreveport and the other one is in North Shreveport.
That is correct.
So you're the South Shreveport guy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone here with you besides you?
No, sir, just me.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Aiello from the board? Any cards submitted, Mr. Kobe? No comments from anyone in the gallery?
Not on this one.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Andrews says approve.
Second.
Ms. Jackson says second. Any further discussion? Any questions of Mr. Aiello? Okay, please vote your machines. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We're going to start the public hearings now. Item number 8 is Cothren, Graff, Smoak Engineering applicants. The owner is DEW Enterprises, doing business as Campers RV Center. The case is 22-268-C, and it is a special use permit and site plan for a camper's recreational vehicle park. And the existing zoning is C3, and the board is being asked to approve a special use permit and site plan. Sir, I'm guessing you're with Cothren Graff.
Yes, sir. I'm Randall Smoak, Cothren Graff Smoak Engineering, 6305 Westport Avenue, and I am representing Campers RV.
Can you tell us what the project is about?
This is an expansion of their existing RV park. It's phase, I believe, phase 3, but it's just an extension of the park they have going there now.
What is the size of the park now in terms of units?
I'm not sure the number of units they have in there right now.
Is this a doubling in size of the RV park, or tripling, or
It's probably doubling in size.
doubling in size? Okay, very good. We were advised that RV parks are becoming very popular.
A lot of people traveling in their RVs and stopping on the road, you know, so this is what this is for. And it's right here close to the interstate if you're familiar with where it is. So it's real good, great access to the interstate and a lot of traffic through there.
Very good. Are you Malcolm's younger brother?
I am.
I know Malcolm from my previous lifetime as aide to Foster Campbell.
Okay. That is my brother.
He's working with you now, is he not?
He's working with his son, my nephew. Yes.
Very good. Okay, any questions for Mr. Smoak? Anyone here in favor of this application along with Mr. Smoak? Anyone in opposition? Any cards submitted, Mr. Kobe? Okay. I believe it's time for us to decide this case. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Ms. Jackson says yes. Second. Mr. Sater says second. Any further discussion? Any questions for Campers RV Center, Mr. Smoak? Okay, please vote the machines. Tell Malcolm hello for me.
Thank you.
Okay, that case is approved. Moving right along, item number 9, case 22-269-C. This is a zoning request submitted by the Taylor Family Property, LLC. The location is the south side of East Stoner, approximately 870 feet west of Uri Drive. The existing zoning is R3. The request is to change the zoning from R3 to C2. That's commercial 2. Is someone here representing the applicant?
How you doing?
Yes, sir, you have the floor.
Jeremy Taylor, P.O. Box 8453, Shreveport, Louisiana 71148.
Tell us about your request, Mr. Taylor.
We plan to do a commercial development on the lots. It's adjacent to a building that we have next to it that's already zoned commercial too. So we was trying to go ahead and get its own commercial too as well.
Do you have some idea of the nature of the commercial use that you're looking at?
Maybe a mixed-use building, commercial bottoms with maybe apartments on top.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
A mixed-use building, mixed use.
Okay.
Basically, you have commercial bottoms with businesses, and then you have apartments that'll run on top of the building as well.
So you'd have to construct a new building because I believe this is a vacant property, is it not?
Yes, it's actually two vacant lots.
Okay. This is directly adjacent to the Salvation Army, like they have a warehouse of some kind there?
Correct. I own that building as well.
You own that building as well?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the zoning of that property?
Commercial too.
It's already zoned commercial?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Did you bring anyone with you to help you make this argument?
My wife is here. I don't know if she want to help make an argument, but
She'll say that for later.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Any cards submitted, Mr. Kobe?
Not on this one.
Anyone here in support of this application besides Mr. Taylor? Any questions for Mr. Taylor from members of the board?
I do. Mr. Taylor, it was stated that you had a meeting for the community at 201 East Stoner.
yes, ma'am.
Where is that?
It's actually adjacent to the lots. It's right beside it on the corner, right across from the new Salvation Army building.
Okay.
It's on the corner of Cornwell and East Stoner, right across from the graveyard.
This a building?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now, the building is not open or anything of that nature. We had to go in and actually clean it out. So instead of us just standing in the lots, I own the building. So I just had everybody come over to that building and we
So how
can
many
meet
was
right
in
there.
attendance?
2.
2?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
How would you characterize their comments?
They seem to be pretty, okay with it, the rezoning.
You're familiar with the senior citizens complex to the east, correct?
Correct.
There was some concern expressed by the owner of that development. Have you met with that individual?
No. I haven't spoken to him and he hasn't reached out.
Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Taylor? Ms. McCullough?
Yeah, I hear you say it was 2 people at the meeting. What method of contact did you use to involve the residents or the business owners? What method did you use to invite other citizens as well as business owners to your meeting?
I
I'm
guess
just concerned you only had 2 people.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we send out the invitations for the neighborhood participation plan meetings, and we send them out to the area of citizens in the notification area, and we send cards out to each property owner.
And only 2 came.
correct.
Okay.
Mr. Clark, how is that area defined? Isn't there a radius of some kind?
It's 500 feet.
500-foot radius
Yes.
from the site?
Yes. We send out cards, and we have documentation of the cards that were sent out.
There's also a requirement of a sign to be posted on the property, correct?
I
It
think
was
there
it was
is
it was a
on the
sign.
property.
Yes, it is. Well, it should still be there.
Okay, very good.
There's a
Uh,
picture of the sign that's on the property right now.
There you go. Hello. Any other board members have questions for Mr. Taylor? Anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Members of the board, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Elberson says yes.
Second.
Mr. Sater says second. Any further discussion on this matter? Okay, let's vote. It appears to have been approved on a vote of 5-2. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
That is correct. Mr. Taylor, this will go to the city council now for a final vote.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is number 10. This is case number 22-236-C. It's a zoning request by Mr. Lionel Padron. I hope I'm saying that correct. The location is the north side of Merrick Street, about 130 feet west of Roosevelt Avenue. The existing zoning is R15. The request is to go from R15 to C2, and the proposed use is office space. This item was deferred from last month, I believe, at your request, Mr. Padron. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you are Lionel Padron?
Correct.
Am I saying that right?
You said it right, sir.
Your address, sir?
1928 Spring Street, Shreveport, 71101.
Very good. Tell us what's going on here.
My daughter's first year of college, so I promised her, a little business because she's going for accountant. So I'm trying to build her office so she can do some payrolls, notary and stuff like that. So my plan is just to build an office.
So you're going to build an office encompassing these 3 single-family lots?
Right, if it convert to the commercial property.
I see, okay. Was your daughter not able to find office space elsewhere in the city?
She just a first year of college, so I just trying to give her something together so she can learn life.
There is some concern about this being a residential area,
Okay,
and you're converting it to commercial.
correct. Across the street is already commercial, so it's just like across the street is not. Across the street, I believe it's a Yuha place, some little restaurants, some things like that across the street. But on this side, it's not.
Across Erie, you're talking about?
Across the street in front of where this location is, across the street on the other side of Erie,
Yes.
it's already commercial. So we just basically, if you look across the street, it's some Yuha place, a little restaurant. So across the street, I'm just trying to build an office and those streetlights.
Is there a market for single-family homes at these locations?
Not quite sure. It was 3 empty lots. So,
And Merrick Street, is it an access road for Caddo Magnet High School?
not sure what Medical High School is. Is that the one on the Stoner, I think?
Magnet High School is
Back in
in the
Graff.
Stoner Hill neighborhood.
Right. It's like a couple blocks on this side, I think. It's not blocking any main street of the high school. Like that.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Padron?
Mr. Pedro, from my understanding, they said there was a neighborhood meeting and there were 2 people that attended.
Yes.
Okay. When was that meeting?
Where was this meeting?
When?
The same, I believe it was on the 13th, on the Sunday, I believe.
13th on a Sunday
I think so.
of last year?
Upstairs, yes.
Of last year. Okay, my next question is, we were talking about that little section, because I'm very familiar with it, right?
Okay.
Okay, we know about the chicken place, Gigi's, and then there's U-Haul, and then there's a
Correct.
church.
That's across the
But
street.
that's Drury Drive intersection that's in between there.
Right.
Where you're putting the space is, it says, actually the 3 lots that you have is on the corner of a residential area.
Correct. It's
Okay,
right
is
there
it-
on the service road.
Okay, so my question is, did you have any other suggestions that you may want to do with it besides an office building?
This is something that I'm gonna go right now. I'm not sure where to go forward, but more likely, I own a business.
Okay.
My business, Lion Hauling. And I kind of would like to put that as an office to like, you know, my daughter can keep up with paperwork and payroll and stuff like that.
So it's just gonna be somewhere where she's gonna be, it's not gonna be not incoming traffic?
No, not for like, not right now. I'm not sure about the future, but yeah, it's more likely when she's gonna, you know, so like, she can keep up with my paperwork over the year, and she can keep up with payroll, so it's gonna be like a little office, you know, little computer, a little room. But no, it's not gonna be into a traffic.
Okay.
Mr. Padron, you said you have a business as well?
Yes.
And the name of it?
Lion Hauling LLC,
So it's like a real estate holding company?
transportation.
Transportation?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Padron? Anyone else here in favor of this application? Anyone opposed? No cards, Mr. Kobe? Okay, time for the board to deliberate. Any comments? Any questions?
You have a motion?
I'm sorry, motion by Mr. Sater to approve? Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
Second.
Dr. Tebow seconds the motion to
Second
approve.
Oh, to approve, I'm sorry. What's the motion?
Mr. Sater's motion was to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Elberson seconds. Okay. Any discussion on this matter before we vote? Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve and a second. Let's vote. Looks like 4-3. So, Mr. Padron, you get the approval from the commission. You got to go to the city council now. Okay? Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next item is number 11 on the agenda. Jones Legacy Holdings, applicant and owner. The case number is 22-244-C. It is a request to change the zoning of 1126 North Market Street. And that's the north side of North Market. Should that be the east side of North Market? Staff?
Yes, yes. East side.
East side of North Market Street, about 360 feet north of Arrow Drive. The existing zoning is I-2. The request is to go to C3 to permit a reception facility and outdoor dining. This matter was deferred from last month, I believe, at your request because you could not be here.
Yes, sir.
Your name?
Valerie Jones.
Valerie Jones, and your address?
My home address?
Yes.
1152 McDaniel Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71107.
07, very good. Ms. Jones, please tell us what's going on here.
I acquired this property around the first part of last year, and it was pretty run down when I purchased it. So since then, I've cleaned the property up. It had like old tires and oil and just different types of parts and old broke down cars. So I cleaned the area up and put up a new fence. It also had like a torn down wooden fence that was there, broken up in different places. So when I was talking to a couple of my the businesses around where that area is, Taylor's Eatery to be exact, he suggested that would be a great place for an outdoor event center. So looking at it, I said, you know, that's a great idea. So it has a pavilion behind the building that we're talking about. There's a covered pavilion. It just has concrete under it and a roof over it, but it's open on the sides. And then there's about a little over a half an acre of just land right next to the pavilion. And so I wanted to use that as an outdoor event center where someone could come and do a birthday party, baby shower, or whatever outside.
Is this the old barbershop?
It's behind that. So
Behind that.
so that barbershop building has parking right behind it, and then it has a pavilion there that's open, and then like over half an acre of just land right behind the pavilion.
Is the barbershop part of your property?
Yes.
Part of this
so I own like
application?
a block there. I own the barbershop and the building next to that on east and west and north and south.
My old boss used to get his hair cut there.
Yes.
Brian is the barber.
He used to be.
Used to be. Yeah, he no
he-
longer cuts hair.
He got sick, so his daughter came and took him, I think, to Baton Rouge, where she lives.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Very good.
Mr. Self.
There's a big ugly sign on North Market Street. Is that part of your plan, or can you take that down?
The Forum hairstyle sign?
Yes,
Yeah, I plan to change that sign,
change it.
you know, to market whatever the business is.
In other words, not take the structure down, but just put a new panel in there?
Yes, sir.
What's gonna be the name?
I haven't decided yet.
Are you already having special events at this location?
I'm not having special events that I've rented out to the public. As the owner of the property, I have had a gathering or two there
Okay.
at that pavilion.
There's been some comment from members of the board and staff about this being an industrial area. Do you think it's appropriate for a special event center?
I think it will work. I have ample space for someone to come in and park on those grounds if they decide to have a gathering there. And there's all types of businesses right around me, including a couple of biker clubhouses where they have gatherings of this sort as well, just indoors.
Did you say biker?
Yes, like
As in
biker
motorcycle?
clubhouses. Biker clubhouses.
Okay.
There's one right across the street from me, maybe a little bit to the north, and then on Joseph Street, which is 2 streets over, there's one on that street as well where they have indoor gatherings.
Is the Magic Touch near there?
It's down a little further to the north.
I'm a biker.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Taylor from board members? Mr. Elberson? Okay. Ms. Taylor, anyone else here in support?
My husband is here in support.
Does he care to talk?
Do you want to say anything?
Did I call you Taylor?
Yes.
I apologize. It's Jones, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How y'all doing?
Yes, sir. Your
My name is Kenneth Jones.
All right, Mr. Jones.
Valerie's husband. We purchased these properties,
You have to state your address, sir. please.
1152 McDaniel Drive, in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Thank you.
And we purchased these properties, over the last year, we purchased 8 properties there. And this place that she talking about opening the event center at, it was really ran down really bad. And we kind of redid everything. We had a couple complaints because we put up new fences and stuff like that to protect our property and make it, to beautify the property really around there. But it's a lot of complaints went on from me behind people's not keeping their stuff up. One of the guys that I looked at that did the complaint, I as a neighbor, I keeps his property clean because he don't cut his grass, he don't do nothing. I'm one of the guys in the neighborhood up there that keeps the city clean. And I calls in on everybody that's not doing nothing right. But me and my wife, we spend a lot of money on stuff. We keep stuff up. We do stuff by the books. But the property we bought, we had a guy living in that property for 20 years with no electricity, no nothing. We called in on him for years. Nothing was never done. We bought the property, redid the property, and now we're trying to make an event center on that property. All the parking we need is there. It's right at 3/4 of an acre out there. We don't have to worry about parking on nobody else's property. This guy that did complain, they don't take care of nothing over there. I done took pictures of everything he got over there. It's like a SOI in the city.
Would that be Mr. Smith you're talking about?
I don't really know him, and I didn't even know he felt like he did. But the people that he rents his other properties to, when I'm cutting my field, I get on my mower and I go cut it. I treat it and get the stuff he have on his fence and everything. I mean, I don't understand why they would even come against us trying to beautify the city and make something. We don't, in the event center that we have, and I want to say this, it's like she said, for parties and different stuff, not for drinks and all that, because we don't drink, we don't smoke. We just want it to be a family event center where you can just come have a nice little time. We got plenty of space for parking and everything there. We own the car lot right there to the left, as you can see. That's Jones & Jones used cars. We own that. We own the cleaners next to that. We own several buildings behind that. We own that field. We own that whole block there, really. But that one particular location that we're trying to get that done at, we had somebody, you know, I just don't understand. You know, they've been trying to get me to come down here to these meetings and voice my opinion about this stuff that they got going on, but I never have.
The staff has received an email from Mr. Smith, David Smith, 1136 McKinley.
Yes.
Where is that in relation to your property?
That's on the next street over. And the biker club that's in front of his place, they takes over the whole street. They don't even have nowhere to park and stuff at. And if you come and see his place on the corner of McKinley and Kansas City, it's a SOI. I mean, he really needs a fence. The fence that we put up is it's a metal fence, and you just can't see inside our property. That's what he needs up. Really, that fence costs us a lot of money, but he complained like I don't know what he thinking.
Well, I'll say McKinley, the property that we're talking about doing the outdoor event center goes from the back of the barbershop all the way to McKinley.
Yeah, you can drive through there.
And then Mr. Smith's property is on Joseph Street, but the back of it is on McKinley.
Any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Jones? Anyone here in favor of this application besides Mr. and Mrs. Jones? Anyone in opposition? Okay, board, time to make a decision. Do I hear a motion in favor?
So moved.
Ms. McCullough
Second.
says yes.
Second.
Ms. Jackson says second. Any further discussion? Please vote. I want you to tell those bikers to send me an invitation to their next affair. Okay?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
This one is passed on a vote of 6-1 in favor. Thank you. Okay, next item. I believe this is the Notre Dame project. Okay, number 12 on the agenda. Case number is 22-215-C. This is a zoning request. The applicant is Beechwood Residential. The owner is the Notre Dame Development Site, LLC. The location is 2932 Murphy Street, which is a city block bounded by Murphy, Arkansas, Ashton, and Alabama. The existing zoning is R15, which, Mr. Clark, I believe is single-family residential.
Yes, sir.
And the request is to change that zoning from R15 to R3, which would be multifamily residential. This item was briefly heard in January. And ma'am, you're going to have to remind us of your name.
Is that USB?
Yes, I think so.
Hi, Wendy Daniels, Beechwood Residential, 700 North 10th Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's going to take a second to get this up, but I'll just start with a quick overview of the development that we presented at last month's meeting. So again, it's the vacant property at the existing Notre Dame school site. The development will consist of 60 rental units, mixed income. Again, the income ranges are between 20% of area median income, which is around $13,000 a year, all the way up to 80% of area median income, which is about $51,000 a year for a 4-person household. The funding sources we would utilize are low-income housing tax credits, as well as state funding from the Louisiana Housing Corporation. The timeline for this development, we did submit our application for funding a couple of weeks ago. We'll find out if this project was awarded the funds in March. We hope to begin construction really at the end of the year, or maybe the first of 2024. We have an anticipated 14 to 16 month construction period, and so units will come online in early 2025. And if you all recall, at the last meeting, it was quite a bit of people here. Many of the comments were in opposition to rental housing, the low-income concepts, and a lot of people said that they were not aware of the community meeting. So when we had our initial community meeting, only 2 people showed up. Apparently that's the magic number, but 2 people showed up to our neighborhood meeting as well. And so you all deferred it so that we could have an opportunity to go back and discuss the development with the community. We personally sent out over 200 cards to the residents on the MPC list, notifying them of the meeting that we were having at the church. We contacted via phone everybody who gave us their information at the meeting that were here. We contacted them via phone and also sent them note cards. We talked to Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor and gave her the cards that she posted on her social media sites. We posted them on our social media sites, and the pastor also notified his constituents of the meeting. So we held a meeting earlier this month. We had about 35 people were in attendance. We were there for about 2.5 hours. We took time to watch the previous MPC meeting, so we had everybody's questions and comments. We went through all of that information, and we allowed them to provide their feedback and comments and questions. I will say it's been somewhat of a moving target. The comments, there were a range of comments. I feel like sometimes when we have overcome certain hurdles, additional and new issues arise. One positive thing that's occurred is the Lakeside Neighborhood Association, which apparently was defunct for some time, has now since reconvened. They had a meeting after the meeting that we participated in, so unfortunately we were not there, but we've been in touch with Mr. Richard Glass, which is the president of the Neighborhood Association, to get that feedback and continue to answer questions. We've gotten calls, so we've been in constant communication with the neighborhood. One of the issues that's come up a couple of times, I think is kind of, we haven't heard it as much recently, was about single-family homes, wanting single-family homes on that property. We've looked at market research. Over the last year or so, they haven't had any homes that have sold for more than $50,000 in that general neighborhood, and so I've explained to the community that it would be very difficult to incentivize a single-family home builder to come into that neighborhood and build new construction houses. It's just, you wouldn't be able to sell them, so that would be challenging. Additionally, one of the questions was about the idea of renters and the notion of mixed income. I think we've explained to the community that the people that they are wanting to target and encourage to move into the community are the people that we will be renting these developments to. So we talked about the range of incomes. You can have teachers, you can have medical technicians. So it's not public housing where it's very, very low income families. It's the type of families that they're trying to attract to the neighborhood. Additionally, some of the concerns that they have with the renters in the community are not necessarily concerns that should exist at our property. The issue is it's a lack of property management that's happening with some of those blighted properties. And so we will have criminal background checks, credit checks. We have a full-time property management staff that would be there to ensure that some of those issues don't exist at our community. The other thing that's come up is I think there's a lot of questions around what rezoning even means, and so they've asked us, are we rezoning the entire neighborhood? And that was a concern for a lot of the residents, and we said, no, we literally are just rezoning this property. And again, the development is being designed where the rental units look like single-family homes, so it's not what you consider large-scale apartments. It's Although they may have multi-units, the homes will be designed to resemble the single-family homes that are in the existing community. One of the major things that has recently come up, I think, is a lot of questions and concerns about the school. So we had, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he is the schools association president, and so alumni association president, and a lot of the concern has been what will happen to the school. So what we shared was, we knew that this school was historic to the community. We don't have an existing plan for what would happen at the school because we felt like it would be premature to have that plan without having that conversation with the community. Since we've had these conversations, we've had at least 5 solid requests for what the school will become: a charter school, a early Head Start center, a museum, a recreation center, and even as much as a homeless shelter, right? So what we've identified is the community is not yet in consensus with what they want to happen at the school site. At the request of the MPC, what we have done is we've excluded the school from the rezoning request to allow us to have time to continue to have conversations, to work with now the neighborhood association to find out, and the Notre Dame Alumni Association, so we can have really informed discussions about what's the possible future use of that school. So what we're focused on right now is rezoning the vacant property surrounding the school. What we have committed to doing is ensuring that this school is no longer an eyesore, right? So we won't allow it to continue to sit in this state while we work through these community meetings and figure out the future use. We'll make sure that it's not an eyesore, but until we have clear direction and consensus on the future use of the school, we have not identified what the future school will be. And this development was always only on the vacant property. It was never intended to demolish the school, to put rental units in the school. We never had that plan. So I hope that's clear, that the future use of the school has not been identified, but we are even happy to make that a condition of our certificates of occupancy, that school has to be fixed up in a way that is no longer an eyesore in the community, even if the future use of it hasn't been identified. The other things that we've done is we have, again, listening to the concerns, we've lowered the density. We were originally requesting R3. We knew people had concerns about that. We've since gone down to R2, so we've been trying to have trying to show up in terms of working well with the community. We've talked about the jobs that this development will create, construction jobs. We have a history of hiring people in the community, local contractors from the neighborhood, minority contractor participation. We talked about them having workforce development training so that the people in the neighborhood will have the training they need so we can employ them on the construction jobs, as well as property management, landscaping, security. There are ongoing opportunities for employment with this development, and we really are trying to show that we want to be a neighbor in this development. And then lastly, we have worked hard. We passed out cards at that community meeting, and every comment card we got back said that they were now in support of the development. We only had one comment card that asked a question about, they suggested making it a charter school. The remaining cards we received said, we now are in support of development. We actually understand more about it. Some people called us later and said that they didn't feel comfortable speaking in the meeting because there were some vocal, somewhat intimidating people who were against the project, but that they were also in support. The pastor has shared that he was in support. I've talked to different people. I don't know if they're here, if they feel comfortable speaking up, but we have gained traction with many of the residents that we've talked to about the project. I think my time is almost up, so.
Notre Dame Development Site LLC, that's Mr. Temple?
Yes.
Is he the sole owner of that LLC?
Mm-hmm.
And the rezoning is not for the entire city block, is that correct?
It's not. So
what percentage of the property is to be rezoned?
It's a little bit over 5 acres. So the total site is about 8 acres. The vacant parcel that we are including is, I think, a little bit over 5 acres. We recently got a legal description. That's right. Yeah.
You covered a lot of ground in your remarks, and I appreciate that. Your statement about the Notre Dame school was that you want to take some time to try to reach a consensus with the neighborhood and the Alumni Association about the future use of the school site, is that correct?
This actual school facility, yes.
And how are you going to go about getting that consensus?
I'm now in communication with Mr. Glass, who is the Neighborhood Association president. We have contact information for the Alumni Association. I know they were at the recent community meeting, so we need to continue to have community meetings to have that discussion. I think the neighborhood needs time to talk through some of this themselves and figure out, maybe in conjunction with the city council person, to figure out what they really want. And then we're happy to have additional conversations. It's hard when we're at a meeting when you have literally 5 and 6 different suggestions on what people want to see. And it's not, we didn't take a vote on what does the community at large want to see. So that's the conversation we need to continue to have.
Yes. You listed a couple of possibilities.
Homeless shelter, early learning center, which I am in support of. I think a Head Start Center is a phenomenal shared component to these mixed income communities. I think that's a great concept.
Wait. Say that again?
Early learning center, like a Head Start program.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I said was I've developed properties in the past where we've allocated space for a Head Start program. And oftentimes the residents and families that move into these communities find that as a valuable amenity to have a daycare center on site that their children can attend. So I think that's a great idea, but I just heard it from one person. I think I said a homeless shelter, a recreation center, and it was a museum or a monument for the former Notre Dame school. And then also I've heard a few times that they thought it was a good site for a charter school. And I think it's obvious some of these uses we'd have to partner with the city if it was a recreation center or the recreation department. A charter school, you need a charter school operator, you need somebody to come in and say that this is a good site. So it's some of these options are really complicated. It's not something that I have the expertise to say this is the best site for that use. But if there's consensus that that's really what the community wants to see, then we can start having conversations with charter school operators, with the city around making that a recreation center. So those are just conversations that will take time, which is why it made sense to pull that piece out of the rezoning request, because if we aren't proposing to make that residential housing and it's going to be a different use in the future, it doesn't make sense to rezone that right now until we know what the future use of that property will be.
And I heard you say that Beechwood or Mr. Temple or both will
Beechwood
repair the school buildings in conjunction with the development of the apartments.
Right. So what I want to be clear about is it doesn't make sense to go in and make major repairs to that site until you know what the use is going to be, right? You could be spending money putting in windows that have to be torn out because you don't need this wall here and you're doing some different things. What we've committed to is that property currently is an eyesore in the neighborhood. We wouldn't even move 60 families into that community in the new construction site with the school in the current condition. So part of what we've heard is that school needs to be cleaned up, right? It needs to no longer be an eyesore in the community. And it'd be great if we could figure out the future use and find the funding to make that all happen, and then the school is in full operation by 2025. But in the meantime, one thing we can ensure is that it will no longer be an eyesore in the neighborhood while we work through the mechanisms to figure out what the future use will be.
There's a reference.
We'll allocate the money necessary to ensure that that happens.
There's a reference to $16 million.
$17 million.
Sorry?
$17 million is the funding we need to develop the 60 units.
So the $17 million does not include the Notre Dame school?
It doesn't. However, we can get better pricing from a contractor at the same time that we give them the contract to develop the units, to come in and do the cleanup necessary at the school at that time.
So if there is a proposal to redevelop Notre Dame, who's going to pay for that?
It depends on what the use of Notre Dame is. If it's a recreation center, then it's a possible partnership with the city. If it's a charter school, the charter school operators come in and they have the funding that's necessary to renovate school buildings. So until we know what the use of it will be, it's hard to say where the funding source is going to come from. which is why I said what we can commit to is cleaning it up until we figure out what the operation part, what the future use will be, and that will identify or dictate what the funding source will be.
What about the green space? What happens to that?
So the vacant property, we will have green space as part of this overall development. We'll have a playground, picnic area, community garden. There's still some space, and unfortunately, I don't have the device to hook into my computer, but I have an aerial photo where I can show you what the green space is. But we'll have green space as part of this overall development. If I put my computer on here, will it show it? You want to try that?
You try that.
Will that green space be open to the public?
Not if they keep acting. No, I'm just kidding. Oftentimes, we do usually have certain space that's for the exclusive use of the residents. But certainly if it's a playground and children in the community want to play on the playground, we're not going to restrict children from the community to be able to play on the playground. I mean, now if it becomes problematic and it's outside residents that are coming in and causing problems, we'll have to address that. But certainly the community can utilize the playground at that site.
If I was renting there, I might want that green space for myself and my neighbors.
Right. But I mean, that hasn't been a problem in the past where we've had to gate off a playground because it was being flooded by people in the community and there was no opportunity for our residents to utilize it.
Mr. Clark, didn't I see reference to a site plan?
I'm trying to show it right now. Let's see if we can. How does this work? Oh, there we go. It's not really clear. Let me see.
We have a copy, Wendy.
You do? You can
Yes.
put it. I wanted to show this one because it shows the proximity to the existing school. Because part of what people really got confused by was they thought that we were proposing to demolish the school. So it's not perfectly clear, but if you see right, can you see?
This will be a lot clearer
Oh,
to
here.
allow us to.
Let me see that. Okay. But let me show, I'll put that up second. But if you see here, this is where the existing school is. And there's still green space right here. So the rental units are actually around here, and all of this land is still staying intact. And let me show you guys a couple of other pictures. I hate that it's not clear. This was a former site that I redeveloped. You can see it was public housing there. And this is what the new development looks like. And so, of course, that was, I think I may have shown y'all this. This was more in line with, it's in New Orleans. And so, but you can see it's tree-lined streets. It doesn't look like this massive apartment building. It's buildings that fit into the overall community really well. Additionally, as a result of that development, there's now been a health facility that's moved into the neighborhood, a charter school that has come into that community. It's a huge playground that the city built in that neighborhood. It's a community garden. And so part of what I've been talking to the neighborhood about is the opportunity to have some investment happen in that community, right? And what these developments do is we are able to get tax credits and incentive dollars that can be used as a catalyst to then spur future redevelopment. I know about other dollars that can come in and develop the infill properties in that community. I'm trying to build some relationships to say, I want to help work with you all on some of the other goals. Like the pastor of the church talks to me about some things that needs to happen in, around the church property. And so we will be owners of this development. We aren't developing this and leaving. We're the developer and co-owner. So we are having a vested interest in this long term. And so there are other opportunities to come in, but to be able to get $17 million of funding to come in to revitalize this community really generally helps to spur future development as well. So that's the site plan. And all of these buildings are all single one-story buildings around the site. The only two-story buildings are these, and they're actually tucked into the development. The other thing to mention is along Alabama Avenue and Arkansas Avenue, all of those properties, none of those properties face the school. It's really, they all face the other streets. It's just a side yard or backyard. And as you can see, the properties that are across from Murphy Street, including the church, what they're looking at doesn't change. So there are a couple of houses on Murphy right here at the corner that will now be looking at the single-family style buildings, and then there are houses along Ashton. But most of the other houses don't face the actual development.
There's quite a few mature trees on this property, are there not?
There are some.
What do you plan to do with them?
They'll have to come down if they're in this footprint of this site.
Any questions from board members for Ms. Daniels?
No, actually, I'd like to ask Mr. Clark a question.
Go ahead, Ms. McCullough.
Or I could just bring it to the board. Now, if we approve zoning today, Mr. Clark,
I'm sorry?
because, say we approve the zoning today, this then goes before the city council for approval, right?
That is correct.
And so if the city council have some concerns about zoning, then at that time, they would address that, right?
They will, they can either approve it, deny it, or remand it back to you
Okay, all right.
with those concerns for you to address.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Ms. Daniels, your second meeting was attended by about 33 people, is that correct?
I think 33 to 35 people were there.
Did you take a vote?
We didn't take a vote, but like I said, we did provide comment cards. We really provided the cards asking if people had questions that they didn't want to ask out loud. There did have somebody there that said, we can resolve this. Everybody opposed, stand up and raise your hand. I think out of the room, maybe 4 people raised their hand. So it wasn't the full room that said we are opposed. And it was actually at the very beginning of the meeting, so.
These examples you showed on the board, are those from your previous Atlanta career?
Yes.
Do you have any photographs from Shreveport, Wilkinson Terrace?
I didn't put those in this presentation today, but I can show you. I can pull up a presentation, some photographs. And I think that came up. It's important to note that the Housing Authority actually does own that development. So we just came in to develop that community for them. So they own it, they're responsible for leasing it up. We don't own that development, but we did handle the development piece, so we'll show you that shortly.
Who owns Beechwood Residential?
I do.
And does Mr. Temple have an ownership interest?
He does not.
So he's essentially hiring you to develop this property?
No, because I'm the co-developer and co-owner, so we have a joint venture relationship.
So you have an ownership stake in the property
I
as
do.
well? Any other board members have questions? Now's your shot. Did we lose Dr. Tebow? Oh, she's got a conflict, that's right, okay.
Yeah, she can't vote.
That's right. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this project? Anyone else to speak in favor? Thank you, Ms. Daniels.
Good afternoon. I'm Rudolph Glass. That is 1735 Arlington Avenue, Shreveport.
Mr. Glass, you favor this Notre Dame redevelopment?
I am. I spoke to Ms. Daniels a couple of times, and the thing she was telling me was something I think would be good for the community. Now, I am the president of the Neighborhood Association, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the Neighborhood Association because we have people that are not in favor of it. This is my own personal opinion. At one time, I thought that the whole area was being zoned, but as I found out, it's not. My concern then was we did not want people to come in and just start putting these things up all over the place. Number two, the school. I went to Notre Dame myself. I would like to see the school still stand. And I would like to see something done with it. We have a lot of needs in our community, and I think whatever is done to it should be done to address the needs that we have in the community. Some people that are against it, I can understand why they are against it. I don't live directly in that area, okay? But the people that, a lot of them that oppose it lives closer to it than I do. So I respect them for what they feel, okay? But I would like to see something done in the community that would enhance it and help people. That's all.
Repeat your address, please.
1735 Arlington.
Arlington.
Avenue. Yes,
That is in Lakeside.
it is.
And you're the president of Lakeside Neighborhood Association?
Yes, sir, I am.
I understand there's another neighborhood association that represents Allendale, Lakeside, and Ledbetter Heights.
Yes, sir. I'm
You familiar with that organization?
Yes, sir, I am.
Is anybody here representing that organization? Okay. So, bottom line, Mr. Glass, you think this will be beneficial to Lakeside?
I do. But that's my own opinion, not the associate. We had a meeting last Thursday, and we still had some for, some against. We didn't take a vote on it, so I couldn't stand here and do it on behalf of the neighborhood association because everyone was not in agreement.
Well, several of us up here represent neighborhood associations as well. Yours is it brand new, or is it established and reestablished, or how would you say that?
Well, when they first started the neighborhood association, I was one of the founding members. Over the years, I moved away, but I came back. Mr. Ellis, who was the president, he asked me if I would be interested in picking it back up because he had gotten old and he was not able to do what he used to do. That was in, I think, 2018. We started back in 2018. When COVID hit, we kind of stopped for a while and got started again.
It can be a lot of work to run a neighborhood association if you really put your back to it.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Glass?
No, but I just want, I had an opportunity to work with Mr. Ellis.
You might want to speak into your mic, Rose.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to work with Mr. Ellis. He was a fine guy.
Yes, sir.
And he really cared about the community. So he was with, what, Lakeside? Who were you with?
Lakeside, same
yeah,
one.
he was with Lakeside.
Yeah.
And so we got an opportunity to work together for some years.
Right.
So, yeah. He's still alive, isn't he?
He is. Yeah.
Tell him McCulloch said hi.
I will. I do that.
The name of the organization?
Lakeside Area Neighborhood Association.
And something else I want to say too.
Yes, ma'am.
I consulted with administration, Mr. Clark. You know, if we voted, I mean, because it's been brought to us that you have some for and some against, and the adjustments have been made with Our Lady Blessed of the Sacrament. At the end of the day, according to administration here, even if we vote to rezone, the final choice is going to be up to the city council. Now, I've spoken with, and I'm a witness as a former city councilman myself, a few city councilmen, and I expressed that in the last meeting. You know, we have some concerns about new developments coming into our communities, and, you know, the sewage and the drainage is terrible. For some reason, we can't get it in our communities. But my biggest concern is, you know, sewage and draining. When you're bringing in these new developments on a dry day, and when it rains, you know, you're having to get boats to come in and pull you out. I'm gonna go ahead today, and I'm gonna vote in support of the zoning. And those city council persons that have some concerns, it would then be up to them to make the decision as to whether or not it's approved. So I think, Wendy, I didn't get to call you today. I did get a message, but I was moving. Thank you for calling me. I didn't get a chance to return your call, but thank you once again for bringing your presentation. Stephen Jackson. I don't know if he's still here. I did get his letter, and I've always, since I've been in government, enjoyed working with Stephen Jackson. So I do respect his opinion on a lot of things. So, but I'm gonna leave it up in the hands of the city council who makes the final decision. You know, because if we vote today to rezone, that's not final. It has to go before the city council. But again, thanks again for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Any other speakers in favor? Aforementioned Mr. Stephen Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you, former Councilwoman McCullough. I don't get to hear that a lot most days. Good afternoon, Stephen Jackson, 505 Travis Street, 2048 Ashton Street, 71103. I did send a letter, and I wanted my letter to be read into the record, so I'll just start from there. I'm here today in support of rezoning for the proposed Notre Dame Beechwood development in Shreveport. After attending community meetings, discussions with the development team, and research with the MPC professional staff, I believe the ultimate benefit of new construction of housing units outweigh the risk of non-development in this area. As a local elected official, as Councilwoman Coyle can attest, representing part of Lakeside, and a board member representing the 4th Congressional District on the Louisiana Housing Corporation, I often find myself torn between the public's input of the local community and the desire to invest from private developers. Like most urban inner city neighborhoods, we're challenged with questions of how do we repopulate areas once thriving communities that consisted of strong home ownership, thriving businesses, and thriving educational institutions. I recognize that home ownership represents the cornerstone of achieving the American dream, and believe that it should not be an either-or proposition for our community. We must believe that we can have a healthy mix of single-family home ownership or renters, multifamily dwellings, or even mixed-use development. As a board member on the LHC, it is my commitment to continue to advocate for funding that will provide our community with diverse housing options and increase awareness among developers and renters of how to access our resources, and so that all communities can benefit. However, we must understand that it's ultimately the decision of the developer and the investors that determine where they choose to invest. If, and I think Ms. Daniels knows that's a big if, because we have been overprescribed for these awards. If successfully awarded, the development will be required to meet LHC's design standards, fortified gold standards, which will prevent and mitigate against storms, hurricanes, and floods. It would also require community development block grant compliance for 15 years or at minimum 15 years, affordability compliance for a minimum of 20 to 35 years. Given these safeguards and the benefit of public and private investments in the area, I ask that you support the recommendation. I'm not sure if staff made a recommendation. I thought I heard that staff made a recommendation to approve the rezoning of the area around the Notre Dame for Beechwood development. Sincerely, Stephen Jackson. That should be Cattle Pasture Commissioner District 3. And so I've heard a healthy mix of discussion here, and I appreciate that discussion. I think that, you know, we have to make sure that we are weighing all sides of this, and it's a balancing act, because everybody is not running to Lakeside or Allendale or Cedar Grove or Moretown to invest these dollars. We know that the prime funding that Ms. Daniels and her team are applying for, that's the public side of it. But when you start putting in the LIHTC investments, that's where the private side, that's where that private equity is going to come in at, where you have private investors that are going to invest in this. We're talking about $17 million in Lakeside. That's a lot of money. Those are a lot of jobs to be created, local jobs, professional services. And so how do we balance that out with the needs of the community. And I think we have to have a local discussion about how do we balance that, because I'm for home ownership. I believe it helps our neighborhoods thrive. But when I think about this development, not a project, when I think about this development, I think about Booker T. Washington that's barely hanging on with population. I think about Jess Clark that's barely hanging on with population. If we get working families into these developments, that's how we start repopulating these school districts, letting them know that there are quality schools right in their backyard. Hopefully Amazon will open up, and this is a place where their workers can go to work. We are changing the model from low-income housing to call it workforce housing tax credits, not low-income housing tax credits, but workforce, because these are developments where police officers, teachers, medical professionals, they live in these developments too. And I think there's a general stigma among folks who rent. And I use this example all the time. If you drive down Clyde Fan Highway, you'll see some of the highest property values and highest rentals, 100%, 90+% occupied along Clyde Fan. Quality development, but it is not stigmatized and talked down about. And so again, I'm for both a healthy mix of rental and home ownership. I'll yield if there's any questions or comments that anybody would like to offer.
Briefly, what is the Housing Corporation being asked to do?
So what we do is Caddo Parish is a disaster. We, from Hurricanes Laura and Delta, we are a qualified area that qualified for one. I think it was either Laura that we qualified for. And so the federal government has sent resources to the state. The state put out a NOFA, and certain folks.
Wait, NOFA, what's that?
Notice of Funding Availability.
Thank
so
you.
they put out an RFP NOFA, and so it's a competitive process. They have to go and do a market study. They have to go do feasibility analysis. They have to go through all of this work, and they're paying a pretty penny on the front end just to even be able to hit submit on these applications. I would give or take somewhere upward of $10,000, $20,000 just to be able to hit submit on the application. And so they've got already skin in the game just to be able to submit. And so of that tranche of money, wards will be made. And you know, what I would love to see is for Caddo Parish to get its fair share of those dollars. Now, I can't commit that that's going to be this project, but my hope is that we'll get our fair share of dollars here in Caddo Parish.
So, of the 17 million, the Housing Corporation's going to write a check?
I think the total amount in this award in this NOFA was $148 million. And so there's competition going for that $148 million, and they've probably submitted for $17 million of it.
But there's also tax credits.
Right, and so what you will do is, and I think I spent maybe an hour and a half running this down to Mr. Clark, and I think we're going to set up something to talk about this in detail, but it's called a piggyback program. So they'll get that grant, which is CDBG dollars, and they'll piggyback it with 4% tax credits, and so that 4% tax credit will come into play, and it's a pretty good deal. Developers love this process because you have both public and private. It really achieved that public-private investment.
So what would you say to someone on the outside who says the developers have no skin in the game?
Well, I tell them to do their research on the tax credit process, and then I tell them to just go, you know, if they've got a bill for what it took them just to be able to hit submit on this deal. This is not public housing. This is workforce, affordable housing, and there's a misconception there. And so the developer has to put some skin in the game. Those investors have to put skin in the game. And so without their investment, without that private investment, it doesn't work.
Mr. Clark, staff is in support of this project, correct?
We recommended approval, and just to add, with the conversation with Commissioner Jackson, we're preparing a seminar of sorts to educate the board and our staff on how tax credit financing works and how all of these developments are designed, because we can better serve you if we're in the knowledge. And after that 2-hour conversation with Commissioner Jackson, we still are not totally understanding exactly how the process works.
No.
So the Louisiana Housing Corporation is gonna come to Shreveport to provide that information.
Yeah, it'd be very informative to learn. You know, I don't know if you've rode past Stone Vista lately on Stoner, but those are affordable housing tax credits. That development is being redone by affordable housing. If you look at You Need a Biscuit, that's being done just a couple blocks over. That's our 9% tax credit. If you look at what's going on right here at Caddo, right here, Choice Neighborhoods, that's being made possible by these are the same tax credits that are going into it. When Riverscape was done on Clyde Fan, those were affordable housing tax credits. And so there's a wide range of programs that are out there and resources that are out there. And you'd be surprised, you're riding right past premium housing development. I think the issue becomes, where is it located? And what we have to do is take the stigma away from where it's located, because then people see it as just public housing. But you'd be surprised, there are folks sitting right in a Riverscape apartment, living same resources. You Need a Biscuit, Lee Hardware, United Jewelers, Ogilvy Hardware, same resources.
Why doesn't the Housing Corporation finance a single-family subdivision at Notre Dame?
Well, I think and I heard Ms. Daniels speak to it, the market has to dictate that. And so the market study, they had to do their market study. They had to look at what's feasible there. And so when that market study comes back and see that you've got a house that was $50,000, that just stayed on the market, would it make sense would it be a wise use of taxpayer dollars to put $150,000, $200,000 home? What we have to do is we have to start to be intentional and incremental about how we develop areas, so that at some point we can come with a $150,000, $250,000 development there. We could throw as much subsidy into that home as we can, but if the market study or the market doesn't dictate that, we can't go in and artificially start dictating that, because then you end up with a situation like we had back in 2006, 2007, where you have folks who can't handle the mortgage, you have folks who can't maintain it, and they just walk away from it, and now you got a housing bubble that's about to pop. And so we can't go out, and we don't want to go out and create that. We want to be intentional about what we're doing.
Mr. Clark, I had a question for you, and I can't remember what it is. It'll come back to me.
I'll be right here, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Jackson?
Thank y'all for your service.
Thank you, sir. Any
Thank you,
other
Stephen.
speakers in favor? Any other speakers in favor of the Notre Dame project? Anyone opposed? Who wants to speak first?
Good evening. My name is Sharon Graham. I live at 2900 Ashton Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71103. I am definitely opposed of it. I went to the meeting. I finally got the opportunity to go to the meeting, and I thank you all for giving us that opportunity to go to the meeting and talk with them. I think it's a great project. I just don't think it should be in the middle of a community. You talked about Clyde Fank, you talked about these other locations. They're not smack in the middle of a community like you are proposing for our community. I am totally against the rezoning of that property for the housing that they're trying to do. Yes, they're gonna have it to look like single family, she says, and then they're gonna have the double complex off in the middle of it. I just don't think that apartments belong in the middle of a community. And that's where I stand on it. I live directly across the street on the corner of Ashton and Arkansas. I think things can development. Oh, y'all want me to show you? I live Ashton, where's Arkansas? Right here. I live right here on that corner of Ashton in Arkansas. So I'm just here to let you all know it was more than 5 people that were against it. It's just that I've seen Notre Dame, I've seen the property go down. I've seen people try to get grants and stuff for the property, but the diocese had a certain amount of money that they wanted. It's just that with our community, we know that it's going down. We're trying to bring it back up. We had a tough time trying to get it where it is now, where it is peaceful, where we don't have as much crime. I just feel that because of its location, now she want to be on the outskirts of coming in our community, I'm all for it. When I go down Clyde, I like all of that and all these other Stoner and all that, but you're not in the middle of our community. So the drainage issue, the other issues that y'all may have had, I'm not even to that point. I'm on the rezoning of the community. Why not? The gentleman talked about it being a bubble and things happen. I brought up last time I was here the 225 to 235 program. Well, you have to get people to option to want to buy in a community as well. You know, you can't just tell me, oh, the only thing that's going to work in my community is some apartments in the community. When you can see that if you offer something to the people to give them the opportunity to move into a home or an affordable home, I just need the city to reinvest back into our community. The park that we have, it's across the street of 4-lane highway next to Booker T. Well, the people on my side of the community, we don't have the access to let our children walk down the street. You can put, the city can invest in our community as well as these developments trying to come in. Once you start rezoning the community, and because we have people who own property there, they don't live in our community. So their investment in the community and their outlook on it is going to be different. The pastor, he doesn't live in our community. His church is there. He has a few members there. So what he says and what he thinks does not apply as what we would say and think. We have a lot of people that own property who came to the meeting, who came to this one. They don't live there. So their thoughts and their investment in the community would be different. Like I told you, I think it's a nice little project, just not in the middle of our community. Any questions?
Any questions from Ms. Graham?
I would just like to share, I'm 66 and I was born and raised on the Cooper Road. And I would invite you to come, I say the MLK community, and just ride around, and you'll have residential with apartment complexes sitting in the middle, you know, not so much on the.
Well, that's because they rezoned it up there for that.
That
particular
it
area.
Is existing. It is.
I saw it. I saw what they have on the MLK. I have relatives and people that live up there, but for what they have in the middle of that community that they let come in, I wouldn't want that across the street from my house. Steve.
But it's happening even in other states. You know, I mentioned to her when she came at the very first presentation. I've actually seen it done in Atlanta. I mean, I even went to Canada for my son's wedding reception, and it's being done in Canada. I mean, they're having mixed housing like that now. So I've really been impressed with the invitation, and I'm trusting Wendy as well as Stephen Jackson. He's always been dependable. I think, you know, we should try to look at, and remember, Stephen is saying it's not low income, it's workforce income. I like the way that sounds.
Well, you like the wording of the way that it sounds. It's the wording. When I went to the meeting and tried to speak with her and ask her the same thing that you were asking, and she was telling me, okay, well, somebody making 13, you know, it's based on, they have sections for it based on income where you will live on her property. But if those people who say nurses, teachers, and doctors decide that they don't want to live in a community, well, what are you going to do with that section of those apartments? I know you're not going to leave them vacant.
But you need housing, darling.
I'm not saying that they don't need housing, Ms. McCullough.
Right.
I just don't want it in the middle of our community.
Well, I understand.
And that's just my feeling of it. And once y'all start this rezoning, we're gonna have other people to come in requesting rezoning. It is gonna have a domino effect. That is another concern of mine, but we'll fight that battle as a community when it comes.
Did you understand when I said, even if the board?
Oh, I did. That's why I'm not
vote
too
to rezone,
concerned.
It's not our baby. at the end of
Exactly.
the
That's
day.
that's why I'm not.
It's gonna fall in the hands
Exactly.
of your elected city council
Exactly.
person.
Exactly. I just want to state my feelings.
I have spoken with a couple of them, and they're not against housing and developments.
I'm not against it either.
They are against flooding and sewerage, you know.
But that's not having
with the
been
new
an issue
development.
that
So
much.
that's my biggest concern.
Yes,
Let's
ma'am.
not talk over each other.
Yes, ma'am.
please.
That has not been much of an issue in our community because we kind of live up on the hill. And I'm sure when the development come like they did on the MLK area, when they started fixing up I-49, 220 extension, you know, some of the properties were flooding. My daughter's father-in-law property, a lot of properties started flooding because of the construction that you are talking about. And I'm well aware of that too, which will probably become a concern.
Yeah.
But for you all being the planning commission and the zoning commission, that's why I'm here. Is to let you all know that the zoning, I am against the zoning of that particular project within the middle. If you would see, all of this is residential, the whole community. Then
But you know it's
want
not
to-
our final call, right?
I do. I'm just explaining myself.
Okay.
But the final, but in the middle of the community, you want to put some apartments. And that's where I stand on it. That's my belief. I know that the community is older community, and a lot of people in our community were either they didn't have children or their children has moved away, which has left the homes there.
They're not taking
You know,
care of
I'm very much aware of that because I live in the community and I care about my community. I fight with property standards and everybody concerning that community. But again, the final thing I say is the location of that property. When you go on in those other communities, like you are saying, they are not in the middle of the community in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Any other questions for Ms. Graham?
Brim,
Brim.
like the fish in the
Like
coffee.
the fish?
Oh,
Brim?
yeah.
That's right.
How do you spell that?
B-R-I-M.
Brim.
B as in boy, R-I-M.
I love
My apologies.
That's okay, no problem. But that's where I was with you all, since you all are the planning commission and y'all do the rezoning. I am totally against the rezoning of that property because of its location.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brim. Mr. Clark, we're going to see this project again, assuming it goes forward with the council?
It will go on through the council, you won't see it again.
Will there not be a subdivision plat or something along those lines?
If it's multifamily, we will deal with that.
Okay. Who else would like to speak in opposition?
3 minutes.
Thank you. She had questions. That resets the clock, does it not?
It needs to be set. It is now.
Okay. My name is Rose Mae Davis Thompson. Ms. McCullough, you were my student. Kindergarten teacher.
Central?
You right,
My
Central Free.
kindergarten teacher.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
I am totally against the idea. I am originally from Jackson, Mississippi, and I had one of my girlfriend's husband who were over some housings, apartments, and he just had so much to say about them. But I just, not only, well, I'm a teacher, my first name is Rose, and her name is First Rose. So we had a good time in class, okay? But I was thinking that really Notre Dame was a wonderful school, And Central Free Methodist, where I was teaching, and Rose was my student, Mrs. McCullen, our school was a sort of a feeder for Notre Dame. When our students left there, the sister would call and say, "What wonderful students you have." And I am just, I just didn't, when I heard of it first, I didn't like it, and I still don't like it, because my girlfriend was telling me, because I observed these homes in Jackson, Mississippi, these apartments. They were beautiful at first, but I know that Miss Daniels explained that we're going to screen these people, and the bad ones we want to put out and all this if they don't, pay. But I'm not so much looking at that. The first thing I thought of, you're putting different amounts for each renter in their apartment, and then I was thinking of the children. And I said, now supposing that there's a renter that's renting, a 500 or 300 apartment, and the children, children like to play with children. And I was wondering if they would just say to, like the mother and daddy would say, or the mother mostly would say, look, so-and-so that you like to play with, well, we pay more for our apartments. And parents talk and children listen. And I was thinking, here they could be good friends. That was my first thought too. But these apartments in Jackson, Mississippi were beautiful. At first, I guess the people paid, but then finally, it started going down. And I was saying, look at these apartments. But not only that, but I live on Ashton Street, and I don't live too far from Notre Dame. And I was thinking, Lord, supposing there be lots of fights, lots of shooting, and neighbors not getting along, and we have that all the time in our neighborhoods. And I was thinking, man alive, I just wouldn't like to wake up during the night and hear a lot of shooting, a lot of fussing, and a lot of not Sunday school words said all the time.
Ms.
I
Thompson,
just
you need to
can't
wrap it up.
take it, okay? And stuff like this going on. And then you see the cops, the policemen are called and all the time and all kind of nights. But I'm totally against it. I'm for the Christian education part of Notre Dame. And I would just love for it to be thinking about it. And you all, can we pray about it? That things will, be the way that the Lord wants it to be. That's what I'm thinking about.
Ms. Thompson,
Yes,
when did Notre Dame close?
2011.
Why did it close?
Well, I guess they closed maybe because of attendance. We had to do the same. Central Free Methodist had to do the same.
Can you conclude your remarks?
Yeah, I'm totally against the project.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Thompson?
So good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Spoiled me. You spoiled me. Sure did.
Who's next?
My name is Earl Lynch. I live at 2735 Metal Street, spelled M-E-T-A-L, 71103, 2305. Okay, to the chairman, to the commissioners, to the concerned citizens gathered. As I was sitting there, seemed like I was in a different meeting from the ones we've been having. I was reflecting back on this situation. My mind went to some of my classmates lived in Stoner Hill. There's a street in Stoner Hill directly in front of the Veterans Hospital. The name of that street is Easy Street. So this voting change is really easy. This decision on the zoning was made long time ago, way before we were even born. It was already made. This was a dedicated, set-aside area for education. Things kind of got away from us. I asked the assessor some time ago, how do you keep a piece of property for its intended purpose? He said you have to be true to the original deed. My great-grandfather left my father a piece of land, and on the deed it states, out of consideration for love and respect, to be used by him and all their heirs throughout their lifetime, never to be sold outside the family. Then he went on to say, when they no longer want it, need it, or use it, it reverts back to his estate. Well, things kind of got away from us. So this zoning change, we really don't need it. We have a surplus of housing in the city. And if you're in Lakeside, I don't care what direction you go into, you're going to run into some apartments. You're going to run into some houses. And all of them probably got plenty of vacancies. So it's a surplus. So it's not needed. So your vote today will go way beyond this room. I too was looking at the website for Notre Dame. They're pretty good. They're a pretty good alumni association. And they had plenty of ideas for the property. One of them was for Miss Dunn, Faith Dunn. She suggested a charter school. So this would put that piece of property back into use. Of course, like Ms. McCullough said, our neighborhood needs revitalization, needs to be rebuilt. We got problems. We got the COVID. You got problems all over the world. Got a war going on in Russia. It's going to take some time. Before a business go into an area to do something, they usually canvass the area to see if what they're going to do is needed, wanted, or is it going to be useful. Well, I wouldn't go into an area, say to put a liquor store or a club, not unless I check with the residents in that area to see if they wanted this. Most people don't want to live near a motorcycle shop where they go to work on motorcycles, especially if the man work in the daytime and motorcycles is his hobby and he's going to work on that at night. It's not going to work.
I'm sorry, Mr. Earl, you need to wrap up.
Okay. Oh, yeah, my time is up. But the decision is being made, and your vote is important, and I'd like to ask you to vote no on this project, because it's going to cause problems for the city. The street, Mill Street, runs right into this property, and you got another block on the other side. So would Middle Street continue, or would it just be abandoned, and you would ask these people to go around this property? Okay, any questions?
Tell me your last name again.
Lynch, L-Y-N-C-H.
Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank y'all for listening.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Can I get a show of hands from the Lakeside community on opposition to the Notre Dame redevelopment? Any Lakeside residents in favor?
I think you should need to get all the people in the audience in favor, Mr. Chair.
That's great. Okay, very good. Okay, anyone else want to speak in opposition? We can't have comments from the gallery. If you want to speak, please come up.
My name is Doris Mosley. My address is 5643 Tall Pines Way, and that's in Shreveport, 71129. I'm here because I own 4 pieces of property in Lakeside, and they are all rentals. They are single-family homes. I think that the developers that would be wonderful for Lakeside, and I also understand the residents because I used to live there. I don't live there anymore, but I embrace the people that live there and how they feel and how they think. I think that bringing something new, exciting, if it's as it's put on paper, it looks good. But the same thing that was said about the school itself to be cleaned up, because you're going to have new, beautiful homes and, well, apartments, but you don't want to leave the school because it's an eyesore. But any street that you take to get to that location, you're running into eyesores. And so I think that because of that, when you clean up the school, we need to look at ways of cleaning up the other areas, and that is what Mr. Lynch has often referred to as there's vacant lots. Well, vacant land is what it is, it's vacant, but there are declined and old burned up houses that could be either torn down or repaired. And so my position, because I don't live there, is I see both sides, and I'm here on both sides. I would like to see, sure, a $17 million development to come in, but I also would like to see maybe another $17 million put into the declining homes that's right surrounding that area before you get to that location. And so I know that at the last meeting at the church, it was talked about bringing in funds, and I think you all were going to have a meeting to let the neighborhood know how they can get tap into some of that money so that they can either fix up that house that's next door to them that's been vacant and boarded up for years, and how that you can get the city to do its responsibility when you have an old home that's burned down and people call in on it and no one goes there to tear it down. So let's work on, if you want to revitalize a community, let's work on getting it together. You started the association, get with the people, start the meetings.
You need to talk to us, sweetheart.
Start the meetings. Well, I'm talking, got you, sir. Okay. Start with the community and the developers. Work together, not separate us. Let's bring this place where I grew up and went to school, 2 doors down from Notre Dame, went to Booker T. Washington. Let's bring it back. And that's what I had tried to do years ago, and willing to do the work. I'm not looking for a job. I'm just willing to do the work. I just moved back here. So let's get busy and let's get this project going and get the community going and get the residents there satisfied. And I think it wouldn't take a whole lot to make them satisfied. Thank you.
Ms. Mosley, I have a question for you. You're a real estate person in a manner of speaking. You own 4 rental properties. Is the condition of Lakeside outside of the Notre Dame Square gonna be an obstacle to people moving into this development?
I think it would, because, and not only the property right in that community, I have others in other declining area too. But I keep my properties up. But I don't want to drive to a $17 million location and I got to pass by a burned out house right here, vacant lot with old tires and stuff over here. I don't want to do that. I would not move there in that condition. I don't care how beautiful it is. When across the street, I got trees piled up this high on a vacant lot and old cars parked all up and down Murphy Street. I don't want to drive past that to get to my beautiful location.
Do you have trouble keeping your properties rented?
All of my properties are rented except, well, I say 2. And the reason is because my niece was living in one that's not in that area. It's over on Yale, and she just bought her own home, so she's out. And then I had a tenant in my other property on Madison that was there for 6 years. She needed a larger space, and she moved. Other than that, they're all rented.
Any questions from Ms. Mosley?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak pro or con? I believe, Ms. Daniels, you have an opportunity for a brief rebuttal. And before you address that, I have a question. Staff provided a couple of typewritten statements, but they're not signed. So I don't know who submitted these statements. Does anybody in the audience have any clue about this? It says summary of key points to the MPC on rezoning Notre Dame.
Oh, they asked us for a summary. So that, I think that was what we provided to them.
So
they
you
asked,
provided
staff
these.
asked us to summarize the community meeting that we had.
That's what you provided.
So these comments were,
As a result of their meeting.
Ms. Daniels, these
Yeah, I'm
comments were
making
made
sure
at the
she-
follow-up meeting, is that correct?
I think Mr.
I
Lynch
think it was
said, I
Mr.
think
Lynch
Mr.
that
Lynch
provided
said he
this.
may have provided. This
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Lynch.
Mr. Lynch provided those.
Mr. Lynch.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Lynch, can you come up for a second, please? Just for a second? I just want to put a name on these statements. I mean, it's not a problem for people to submit statements anonymously, but it definitely puts an obstacle in my mind to taking these comments seriously, because they're anonymous.
No, I went and did the research. I went over to Our Lady of Blessed Sacrament, and I did some interviews, and I went back and looked at the property deeds all the way back to 1925, when it was secured, when the lady bought it.
So this packet is yours, in other words?
Yeah, I put that together.
You compiled this?
I wanted to give the commissioners enough information to make a decision.
So these, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, these are 7, 8, 9, 10, these are all comments by your neighbors?
No, that's stuff I was saying in the meeting.
Oh, these are your
Yeah,
arguments?
uh-huh.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay.
That's
That's
what
all
that
I
is.
needed to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay, it's time for the board to deliberate. Who's gonna kick us off?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second. Mr. Chair, excuse me, did she finish?
I'm sorry,
her-
Ms. Daniels is in her rebuttal.
I really didn't have a rebuttal. I was going to make myself available for any additional questions. I do want to say one final thing. We are invested in this community. We plan to be a good partner. We've I think we've shown ourselves to do that. I've given my personal cell phone number. I've called and talked to everybody that had concerns, and I'm prepared to continue to do that. So if you all had any other questions for me, I was going to make myself available.
Can you ask Mr. Temple to do a basketball camp in Shreveport?
Sure.
I'm serious.
Okay, I will.
We
I can-
need
I can
some
certainly ask
marquee players to come to our city and do this kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's big time, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
I grew up in Baton Rouge. I know who Collis Temple is. Okay, any questions for Ms. Daniels? All right, Ms. Jackson, you got the floor.
All right, I'd like to make an motion to approve.
Second.
A motion for approval by Ms. Jackson and second by Ms. McCullough. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion among members of the board?
We're approving R2, correct?
We are approving.
The application was R3, staff recommended R2.
R2, so you want me to do it?
So, Ms. Jackson, you
Okay.
okay with R2?
All right,
Just
I'd
wanted
like to
the
make,
record
you want me to do it over?
Yes, please,
Okay.
to make the record clear.
I'd like to make a motion to approve it to an R2.
From a R3 to an R2.
R3 to an R2.
Second.
R17,
And Ms. McCullough seconds that.
correct. We good.
Okay. I believe we've had all the shouting. Time to vote. Please vote.
I think I am voting. Why is it not? What is it not? Oh, it's up there.
That looks like 6-0. Very good. Okay, this motion is approved on a 6-0 vote, and it goes to the city council when?
We'll track it on.
Beg pardon?
It will be sent to the city council tomorrow.
Okay,
So
so,
everything today go tomorrow?
it's going straight to the city council,
Yes, sir.
folks. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda. Any old business? Any old business? Any new business? Mr. Clark?
We had, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you,
I'm sorry, you folks in the audience, can y'all keep it down, please? We're still meeting. Thank you. All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, go ahead.
no problem. We had given you all copies of the bylaws, and we are operating without bylaws presently. And we were hoping that, I see that it shows introduction, but we needed you to vote on the bylaws today. And I don't know if you could vote to adopt the bylaws today.
Where are they?
You've never seen them?
I don't recall seeing them. I mean,
Well,
Passed out to each member.
Mr. Bailey had passed them out to each member, but if you did not get them, we will get them out to you by electronic,
can we do
Format.
this in March?
and vote on them in March. That'll be fine.
And these are bylaws for this commission?
This body, yes, sir. And you've had them for a couple of months at least.
I apologize, Mr. Clark.
No problem. I was just sharing with you that we're trying to do some house cleaning to get things in proper order that you asked us to do.
Okay, well, I challenge all members of the board to read these bylaws and be ready to vote on them in March.
And if anyone needs a copy, we'll be more than happy to provide another copy.
Is there anything controversial in there?
No, sir.
Okay.
Just order.
Terms of office.
That was a situation that was never resolved. The attorney DeGodge had shared with me that it was not, we drew lots, but we did not determine what dates the terms would extend to. So you need to determine what those dates will be. Will it be January 1 to December 31st? From the day that you drew lots to the time after that, a year from that date.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Windsor Andrews.
My thought as it relates to that particular issue, we just went through an election with the city council, i.e., and the parish commission is coming up, and it appears to me, if I remember correctly, their terms are January to December, and we're the third leg on that table. I would suggest that we consider being in concert with what they're doing, January to December.
Okay.
I second it.
Did he make a motion?
Sounded like a motion to me.
I so moved.
It was seconded.
So,
I second it.
what Mr. Andrews is saying is that the terms of the members of this body will run January to December. In other words, a calendar year.
Correct.
And concurrent with the council.
Yes,
Correct.
Okay.
absolutely.
Now, I drew the number
All in
6.
favor?
So
Well-
how does that work?
It just 6 years from now on December 30th, your term will end.
That's an awful long
If you
sentence.
make it that long.
What'd you say, Chris?
If he makes it that long.
I might not live that long.
All right, for one more.
So, there is a motion on the floor to have the terms of the commissioners concurrent with the calendar year.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's a second by Ms. Jackson. Any discussion on this matter? All in favor, please vote yea. Nay, vote no. That's unanimous
So the terms will start from January 1
of 2023.
of 2023.
So I gotta add 6 to that, number 23 then.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay.
One more question,
Mr. Andrews.
Was the bylaws dated May 4th, 20? All right, yeah, okay.
May 4th of 22?
That's when they passed.
Well, obviously,
22.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
These bylaws have been reviewed by the MPC attorney, and they're ready for your review and your vote.
And can they be electronically transmitted to us
We can
between now and the
electronically
next meeting?
transmit them to you.
Okay.
Does everyone need them electronically transmitted?
I'll take a hard copy, you know, I'm old.
Mine's probably my note.
Not only your kindergarten teacher.
Mr. Clark, do you have anything else to report?
There, the APA conference, National APA Conference will be in Philadelphia, April 1st to the 4th. Historically, the executive committee has been allowed to attend that conference. The executive committee consists of the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the past chair. And you need to let us know as soon as possible if you're interested in attending that conference, so that we can evaluate the budgetary concerns to make sure that we can fund your travel.
When is it, Mr. Jamal?
April 1st through 4th,
And where?
Philadelphia,
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
American Planning Association.
American
You mean
Planning
where my
Association.
eagles are? That's where my eagles are. Yeah, I wanna go.
You know I'm a Cowboy fan. You're not.
That's where my eagles are.
So there are some perks to this job then, huh?
Yes, it is.
You would have to attend the conferences, not go to just to Philadelphia.
You mean it's not a
That's
golf,
whole
it's not a
nother
golf
story.
outing? Can't rent a motorcycle and go
That's a whole nother story.
tour in the Poconos or something? Okay, so, but the city will pay our expenses?
Yes,
So when do we need to let you know?
next week would be good.
Next week, okay.
Is this a reimbursement thing? In other words, we pay our way and then we seek
The
reimbursement?
city will pay for your travel, and then it will give you per diem while you're there, and the city will pay for your hotel room.
Oh. April, that's April 1st.
April 1st and 4th.
They trying to fool us.
So, Nerds Conference,
Nerds go.
okay.
And I think that the conference is extremely beneficial because members that have gone in the past learn a lot about procedures and how meetings are conducted and about zoning and how planning is directed. You have a series of seminars that you can go to. It can be extremely educational.
Okay, well, I'm in, because I'm all for this.
You the vice chair.
When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I said, I can't believe it. Yeah, you gave us the paperwork.
Right.
I couldn't believe it.
I wish we had
go.
access to the web page because there was the advertisement for the conference. There were some pictures of some interesting characters on that picture, and you would be proud that your staff was advertised on the advertisement for the conference.
You expect to send staff to this meeting?
Yes, sir. As I shared with you earlier in the pre-briefing, I'm gonna be real quick today because I know you're ready to go and I respect that. We will do a presentation at the National Neighborhood USA Conference. We submitted our proposal for presentation there. The proposal was accepted, so staff will be going to do that presentation and represent the city of Shreveport, MPC. And also, like I shared with you upstairs, there are a couple of Department of Transportation grants that we're seeking. Once we finalize those, we will get back in touch with you and let you know how they're going. And since you probably did not get a chance, the projects that have been let go by the NLCOG for Shreveport, Caddo, Bossier, DeSoto, and Webster parishes were available to you by electronic means. Shara will be sending you out that so you'll just know and be aware of those projects that's coming up. Other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like a copy of those projects.
They're coming to you by electronic medium
Very good.
tomorrow morning.
I don't see anybody in the audience.
I don't think there are any public comments.
No public comments at this time? I'm going to apologize to the commission for talking so much today.
Yeah, you asked a lot of questions.
I don't
It's on the
mean,
record, though.
I don't mean to dominate the discussion, I really do not. So
I like your curiosity.
I want to say that, put
It
that
helps
out
me.
there.
It helps me.
Okay?
Mhm.
Any board members have comments?
You know, I'd made one comment earlier, and I think it'd be a good idea if we had our own board orientation with the MPC staff, because I noticed we spend time in our preliminary meeting talking about procedural things, and I think it'd be a good idea for them to kind of brush us up on the procedure outside of the case, in particular cases, and what we should be looking at and doing and paying attention to in cases that we see in general. I just think it'd be a good idea. You know, we all can't go to the planning conference, but it would be beneficial for me to be able to kind of refocus on what it is we're supposed to be weighing when we come into these meetings. It's easy to get distracted with the personalities and with the companies or the actual project that they're talking about, and I find myself going in that direction more than I even find myself looking at the actual zoning. So I wanted to have another opportunity for us to get together with the staff and them to really go over this procedure process and all that. And you know, I'm willing to take time or sponsor or whatever, a meeting or a luncheon or something like that. Where I like that too. I like that idea.
And she can't prevent you from taking care of it. We just can't pay for it.
That's right.
Is there a provision for that in the public meetings law?
At the core, we'd have to advertise it and list it, post it.
But I think that'd be okay. The other purpose in that meeting might be a chance for us to really reform committees and talk about the committee structure of a subcommittee on like the master plan and all these other things that we might have an interest in participating in or learning about. And that would be a good opportunity to kind of feel that whole thing out as well.
Could we do it with fewer than quorum?
You can do it with a quorum, we'll just post it. You know, I mean, I don't think it's any secret, you don't have any business if the public wants to come. They just can't eat it in the meal.
That's right.
Since it's being paid for by Mr. Everson.
Okay, I have one final comment. Y'all might remember that my friends in Allendale have submitted an argument that the city's master plan is in conflict with the transportation plans that are followed by the Council of Governments. And we have been trying to meet with Mr. Clark to sort of map out this debate, I guess you could say. And my hope is that we bring this to the full commission and let you hear some of that debate.
May I just interject something, Mr. Chair?
I beg your pardon?
May I interject something?
Sure.
At your meeting in March, there will be Mr. Chris John, the MPC attorney, Mr. Jerry Jones, Mr. Josh, I think his name is Clavier, will be, they are the legal counsel for NLCOG government. They are reviewing your request and your discussion and making a determination if there is a conflict. Initial concerns are there is not a conflict, but I'm allowing them to come as legal authorities that interpret law to share with you their determination on whether or not there is a conflict.
Rick John.
He's this MPC attorney that the MPC contracts with. He's been the MPC attorney since 2016.
And Jerry Jones, the former city attorney,
Jerry Jones, yes.
who now lives in Baton Rouge?
I don't know where he lives. I'm just saying that he's an attorney that represents NLCOG. And NLCOG has their legal, legislative, regulatory status, and they will explain all that to the board.
I have a question, but it's not about that. The two things that we're supposed to do online, the financial something, finance, and the
Financial disclosure.
disclosure, and there was something else.
You got to do ethics training.
Ethics training. Now,
And
what are they
Charlotte should
do?
be sending that out to you next week to get you started, because I wouldn't wait until December like I do, but because you'll be sitting there doing training 2 hours, an hour, and when you don't have time, so most people get it out of the way like in January or February.
Okay, so both of them are due in May?
The disclosure is due May 15th, same time the state income tax returns are due.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand
Is
that
it
answer.
May 15th, disclosure.
You said
It's due when?
May 15th.
May 15th.
Same time state income taxes are due.
And so the ethics is due.
Ethics, you have to do it by December 31st.
Okay, but you can start it. Got it.
Well, I've already done mine, right?
Do we
Did you
do
do
it
it this
each
year?
year?
You did it last year. Now you got to do it again.
Yeah, you got to do it each year.
Oh, man, that means I gotta turn around and do that again.
I know your feelings. I feel your pain.
But
Stephen probably has done his
Just
already.
know you let Allendale Strong that I'm with them all the way. I'm still on there. I
Thank
love
you.
your presentation, your television, and whatever. It was good.
Thank you.
Just let Dorothy Wise and all of them know Allendale Strong. I'm still with them.
You need to come to our meetings, Rose.
Yeah, I know. I used to.
I vote that we adjourn.
Mr. Andrews moves for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a bunch of seconds.
I want to hear that gavel, though. I like that gavel. I like the way it sounds.
Oh.
You gonna hit it? There you go.
Meeting's over.
Oh, they gotta take
Thank you.